Hello and welcome to the oncoming Brainstorm.
I'm Samuel.
And I'm Lewis, and today you are joining us for our new Big Finish review, War Master 3, Rage of the Time Lords.
So here we are with part 1 of Rage of the Time Lords, The Survivor, which is set in around World War II. Centres on this small English village where you have this young woman by the name of Alice Pritchard, who's our protagonist. She's an interesting woman, and as the story goes along, we sort of begin to learn more and more about her, that she's sort of more than just meets the eye.
Yeah, I really like Alice Pritchard as a character. She's played by Catherine Pearce, and I think the performance is really good.
And as I said, as it goes along, you find out that the Master is on town. Of course, the wonderful Derek Jacobi is returning, and he's playing this priest at a church and sort of being all nice and whatnot.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of some of the earlier stuff in the War Master box sets, like The Good Master, Part 2 of the Only the Good, and also The Glittering Prize with Master of Callus, where he is just kind of manipulating people around the village. He's getting them on his side, and he's doing the classic whole, you know, I am the Master, and you will obey me.
So we centre on this town, as I said, who are sort of fighting the good fight in the war. Alice kind of like resents her position there. You've got this woman above her called Riley, I believe.
Lady Riley, yes. But yeah, then you have a new character come in that kind of shakes things up, which is the daughter of Lady Riley.
Or as me and Lewis prefer to call her, Posh Bitch.
The Posh Bitch, Hannah Riley. And yeah, she's really well played, but goddamn, she's a hateable character. Yeah, she's a real spoilt brat, and you get that feeling very early on. You're in Alice's eyes in a way, you're seeing the whole thing through her eyes, because Hannah is just really belittling and bitchy towards Alice. Alice starts to get really angry, and she talks to the Master a bit later on about how she just starts feeling really angry at people, like the rage just consumes her.
Yeah, she gives like a sort of confession to him, and he's like, oh no, you need to harness that, Alice, yes. And here are these weird crystally things that are going to help you, and they're prayer beads, and use them to help with your powers. I see great potential in you, and all this kind of stuff. And Alice sort of confides in Hannah, saying that, oh well, I've got this boy in the town that I really fancy, and Hannah's like, oh, you do you? All right, cool. And then you find out that Hannah went off and sleeps with him, basically like just to annoy Alice,
just to
like,
spite her.
Yeah, and she like teases her all about it. It's like really shitty, and that's when like Alice starts to like flip out at her. And her anger really flares up, and there's a bit where like she destroys the barn door, and then another bit where she like makes Hannah strangle herself.
Yeah, it really escalates where she uses the powers of the crystals just to, basically Hannah goes, yeah. The sound design of that is just, oh. So in this kind of World War II countryside setting, we start getting a lot of paranoia from the villagers and the people working within the town. And this also escalates and leads into the fact that Alice is channeling these powers, and she's just done a really awful thing to Hannah. Lady Riley is not happy.
Of course, the Master is loving this, and he's sort of continually encouraging Alice to embrace her powers, while at the same time throwing her under the bus, making sure the whole town hate her. And he's sort of drumming up these things about, oh yes, I work for the British. You know, I'm a spy or something like that.
It's so fun seeing Derek Jacobi as the War Master in these scenarios where he's just in control of everything, and he knows what he's doing, and he's playing this game. It's fantastic. And there's a really good interaction between Catherine Pearce as Alice and Derek Jacobi as the War Master. While the stuff in here is really good in The Survivor, I do wish we could have saw a bit more of that interaction. It reminds me a lot of Cole, who is sort of the Master's companion in the first box set.
Yeah. I mean, that is the thing, like, I think Cole was so great in the first box set, right? And it was kind of a shame that you didn't have an equivalent in Master of Callus. But in this, not only do you have Alice in the first part, but later you get the wonderful 8th Doctor, Paul McGann. And they're absolutely marvellous. Like when you have Jacobi who can bounce off of a good character that sort of keeps him in line, challenges him, I think that's when it gets really interesting.
Yeah, you need like a dynamic foil to bounce off against the Master to make him as interesting.
So one thing, you kind of get the impression that the Master is like grooming Alice to become his companion, right? He's trying to accelerate her abilities and make her like this useful tool for him, right? Only that's not where things go. And this does make the Survivor feel like a bit disconnected from the rest of the arc, like with Missing Link and darkness and light. And that's fine, but it does give the impression they didn't plan it out that clearly.
Yeah, I really love the structure of the first box set. I think that was really great, because you can listen to a lot of those stories in isolation, except maybe the final part, and you can really enjoy them just as they are. But they happen to have little links that weave in between them. But, and then obviously you had Master of Callus, the second box set, which was just one long story, and I wasn't much of a fan of that. I think if you've got a really good story that can expand through a box set, that's great, but Master of Callus was a little flimsy in areas. But with War Master 3, you sort of have an in-between between those two.
Yeah, I think the quality has gone up. Like, I would recommend Rage over Callus, and fortunately you don't really need Callus to enjoy Rage. They kind of exist exclusively on their own, which is cool.
Yeah, so it's a little strange that the Survivor you can enjoy in isolation, but it does build towards the final two parts, but at the same time, it's not that integral, if that makes any sense.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think one thing I really like about this story is you have the whole, like, Master manipulating the town's paranoia, and he's able to, like, drum up this kangaroo court where he gets the whole town, you know, voting on whether Alice is, like, a German spy or whatnot. And then he brings forth her mother, and her mother goes on this long confession, talking about, you know, how Alice isn't really even human. She was given Alice by an alien who flew to Earth.
It's quite a cool plot twist, because it leads into the fact that Alice has got these powers, and it does make you question, was it the crystals that gave her the powers, or has she got these powers hereditary? Like, is it inherent in her species?
Yeah, and that does pay off later as we go, the whole psychic stuff. But yeah, no, I do really like that reveal. It's really satisfying, and you get Alice, who's kind of heartbroken about it, of course, because her mother's been lying to her this whole time, and her mother really throws her under the bus as well. And
a lot of the villagers are kind of like, oh, you're a foreigner, you're not from this place. So that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, so you get basically the whole village that she's been, you know, working for, rallying against her, drummed up by the Master, and then she just explodes at them and just kills everybody.
Unleashes the rage, and there's just a massive inferno of fire.
Yeah, it is awesome.
So after this great and cathartic ending, like Sam mentioned, it leads into the later half of the box set where the Master takes Alice away, and he does say it's on travels, but we're not quite sure what he's up to, because we saw what happened with Cole before.
He is not like the Doctor, you know, he doesn't do things for compassionate reasons. Like,
he's always got an agenda.
Yeah, he's clearly like using Alice and her powers for a reason that we do discover later. It's pretty cool. We get all into that.
So in conclusion, The Survivor is a solid opener. It's strong. It's not a story I'd really go out my way to listen to in terms of Big Finish's catalogue. It's a nice way to lead us into Rage of the Time Lords, but it's not a story I'm going to run out the streets to go listen to.
Yeah, I would concur. It's good. It sets up stuff that comes later, and Alice is pretty cool, but it's definitely not my favourite of the War Master stories.
So thank you all for listening, and you can join us next time with the Coney Island Chameleon. Right, we'll catch you then. Take care, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.